Good evening, everyone. Welcome to IT Career in Australia live stream. And tonight's topic is narrowing the gender gap and cybersecurity. So thank you so much, as usual, to finding some time to join our live discussion. Please, as usual, introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what you do and join our conversation with your comments and questions. If you're new to my live show, I'm Jana Martins. I've recently entered IT industry myself. So I'm passionate about learning more about the industry and obviously sharing my knowledge on this YouTube channel. So again, tonight we're going to talk about narrowing the gender gap in cybersecurity. And Jay is going to share his story, his experience, his tips, and his vision for bringing more women in this industry. So incredibly relevant topic for those who might be thinking to shifting your career more to cybersecurity. So please tag or share with your colleagues and friends who need to hear this. So before I pass it on to Jay to introduce himself, just wanted to remind you quickly that we're going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So to watch replays, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, IT Career in Australia. So I'm going live there every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time, with various experts from my network. And we're talking about all the things around IT career, job search, and specifics of IT industry in Australia. Also, I encourage you to join my meetup group, so to make sure you get notifications about upcoming events. And as usual, encourage you to ask as many questions as you want, as long as you stay on the topic. You can ask your questions on the different platforms as well. So, and always, please use this live stream not only as the opportunity to learn new information, but to network with people in the industry. And please, again, say hi in the comments, because if you're not saying hi in the comments, I don't know that you're here, and it feels sometimes that we're talking with the crickets. So that's enough of me. I'm just, so Smail is actually here. Thank you, Smail. Thank you for saying hi. That's good to know that people actually send us some feedback. So it's enough of me. Just passing on to Jay to introduce himself, please.
Hello, my name is Jai Hira. Thank you for having me on your show, Yana. I'm really looking forward to discussing the topic of diversity and collaboration in cybersecurity, which is very close to my heart. Like you said, keep it short, 30 seconds it is. Back to you.
I like them people, on the clock. Rebecca's
I could
here.
expand. I could expand, but like you said, keep it short, Jai. 30 seconds. I wanted to keep it short and sharp then.
Thank you. Rebecca's here saying hi. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining us. So yeah, guys, as I said, please say hi. And also maybe let us know if you work in cybersecurity or not. So obviously, Jay, you've been in cybersecurity for a long time. I guess tell us a little bit more about yourself and, why you want to talk about this topic today. What's in it for you?
Of course. So, like I started saying, my name is Jai Hira, and I've always considered myself a lifelong learner. I've always had a deep interest in understanding how people and things work and why they work a certain way. As a university student, I was extremely competitive in academics, always focused on maintaining the number one spot. But when I entered the workforce, I was hit with a big dose of humility that changed my perspective and the course of my career. Working with incredible mentors and teams, the need to compete was replaced by a strong desire to collaborate, share, learn, and grow with the team to achieve collective wins. As I grew older, and I was just discussing before we went live with Yana that I'm turning 40, I became clearer about my purpose and intentional about who I really wanted to be. Having had that sense of purpose, I've channeled all of my energy into pursuing my passion for cybersecurity and promoting collaboration and diversity in the industry, which is what we really need to solve this complex problem that we have in our hands today, which is cybersecurity.
Perfect, Jay. And I think few more people, joining us. Good to see, Sharad is here. Good evening. Rosabella here. Hi, everyone. I'm interested in changing careers from teaching to cybersecurity. I'm hoping to learn how I can bridge into the entry-level position. You're in the right place, Rosabella. We're definitely going to talk about it today. Good evening, Liberty. So great, a few people joining us. So great to see you guys. And, as usual, feel free to post some questions and we'll definitely get to your questions as we go. So I guess, Jay, like obviously you have years of experience in cybersecurity, based on all your experience, I guess, what makes a person successful in cybersecurity?
So that question, in fact, Yana, that you raised actually very closely aligns with what Isabella was asking. That she is a teacher and she wants to be a part of the cybersecurity industry. So, what sort of characteristics or traits that we probably look for in the industry? So, I'm going to talk through maybe five or six of them. Um, Curiosity, empathy, problem solving, humility, being open to learning. And let me now expand a little bit about them. So, curiosity in terms of being able to dig deep, ask the right questions. Empathy, in fact, empathy in combination with active listening, to be able to pay attention to what's being said, listening to understand rather than listening to respond. A lot of the times when we are into conversations, we end up listening, but we end up listening to respond rather than actively just listening and understanding and feeling the emotions that the other person feels. I think sometimes when we listen, we've got to not worry about responding and just completely pay attention to what's being said, not just the verbal communication but the non-verbal communication. So those are important traits. Again, problem solving. When we encounter obstacles or challenges, it is the mindset that helps us resolve them and achieve the goal that we're after. Humility, to accept that you're unlikely to know everything. I think I've been in the industry 17 years and I've seen people who have been in the industry for about 20, 25 years, and nobody can put a hand on heart and say that they know everything. Each one of us knows a part of the puzzle, and you don't need to know everything. You've got to just be humble and accept that you're never going to be able to know everything because of the pace at which technology changes, because of the pace at which adversaries operate, because of the pace at which we talk about industry 4.0, the convergence of physical and digital systems, the pace at which we are evolving. I think it's never going to be at a point wherein we can confidently say that we know everything about everything. So humility is an important component. Being open to learning, like I said, from others around you is also an important skill. I probably said five things, but I got a sixth one, which is the key in my mind: a growth mindset. it a growth mindset is about embracing failure as an opportunity to learn, and the belief that any skill can be acquired through effort and persistence. A lot of us think that it's magic to secure a certification, to go through a particular course, or to get into an industry. There is no magic, right? You've got to There will be, everyone encounters failures, right? You hear someone like a CEO doing a keynote speech and you think, wow, their life is magical. It's not. They would have encountered the same amount of failures that you and me have, and you and me will, when we experiment or when we go through life. So you've got to just embrace your failures and treat them as opportunities to learn from each of these failures, and then continue to believe that skills can be acquired through practice, through effort, through persistence. So I think those are the six secrets that I would want to share with Isabella and anyone else that actually wants to be a part of the cybersecurity industry.
So don't need any technical skills, so I can go and start working cybersecurity tomorrow.
Look, brilliant question. I love your question, Yana, and thanks for being upfront. Well, the first question that anyone that you speak to would ask you, Yana, would be more around, okay, so why cybersecurity? Is it just because there's a lot of jobs that are not being filled? Is it just because you feel that there's a future in it? All of those are acceptable rationales, but at the same time the question is, what are you really doing in order to back your words with actions, in terms of what are you doing to demonstrate that you're interested in this domain? And if you can demonstrate that interest in the domain, I am certain that you keep knocking the door. I think Liberty a couple of weeks ago wrote a post on the fact that you've got to constantly keep knocking the door, and I know that he's joined us live, so I wanted to call it out. It's all about keep knocking the door, show interest. Someone is likely going to open the door at some point. So does that answer your question, Yana? Are you happy with that?
So yeah, so but basically, like, would you say that to enter cybersecurity, you don't need to have any, I don't know, like just previous math experience or logic or like some technical skills? So do you think that's all that can be gained during, during the process?
I think people bring in with them lots of experiences, right? So if it's an entry level position, then as long as you demonstrate that you're interested, and how are you, what are the topics that you're interested in within cybersecurity? Are you more interested in the attack or the defense or the architecture or the strategy or governance? Do you know how to write policies? I think you've got to be able to then substantiate and say that, that's an area that really interests me. And then what have you really done if that is an area that interests you? Have you done any reading? Have you read any articles about that area? Have you attended any conferences? Have you attended any live events? There's so many live events, right? There's information that's available to us from every single possible channel. What are we really doing to make use of our time to then absorb that information? So being able to demonstrate that yes, you're interested in a specific domain is important. So I answered almost your question partly, Yana, which was more around for entry level positions. There's obviously lateral hires where there'll be some sort of criteria around some years of experience, but I almost feel like those barriers need to be lowered as well, just because everyone that has worked in the industry or has cared for a sick person and have stayed home, have had a career break, have looked after, taken parental responsibilities and looked after kids, each one of them is actually bringing a lot of different sorts of skills and life lessons along with them. And we've got to respect that, and then try and support them, help them understand where should they be positioning themselves. I think that's my take on it, Jana.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just gonna say hi to Shabham as well, joining us. Good evening. Looking forward to hear some great insights. Thank you guys for saying hi. That's always great to see that people joining us. Okay, Jay. So like you in your list of the persons who can be successful in cybersecurity, was a lot of things about humanity, empathy, and listening, and so on. So why in this case we feel like a cybersecurity has been a male-dominated field for so long?
That's a really interesting question, Yana. I almost feel like there's lower interest amongst female in STEM based courses, which can be attributed mainly to parents and teachers often pushing boys more towards math and science, whereas girls are often pushed towards arts and humanities. And we were having this conversation before we went live on how that's the case. That seems to have a cascading effect. From lack of representation leads to an almost cyclic pattern where the absence is felt across the levels. The barriers to entry for women, in my opinion, have always been higher. So, for example, during an interview, women get questioned around whether they have kids or do they have plans to have, do they plan to have kids? And hiring decisions at times, it feels like have been made based on the responses that are being provided. The other reason that I could think of is role models are really important. While women have always been a part of STEM, the light I feel hasn't been shown on them. And let me give you an example by expanding that. Most people, myself included, didn't learn about these brilliant female problem solvers that were the brightest mathematicians of their generation, that were integral part of NASA's space race, until we watched the movie Hidden Figures. And we discussed about this before the live stream as well. It was an eye opener in terms of, we constantly keep drumming the message that we need to push women more towards STEM based courses. But there was interest, there has been interest. But have you really heard about these stories? We hear about these through the movies that we watch, right? So it's just interesting how certain things don't really come out as much as they should be. I hope that answers your question.
And like, I guess, okay, so we feel like the cybersecurity being a male dominated industry at the moment, but there is some female dominated industry, for example, as well. Yeah, so I don't know, like maybe if we go to HR department, it will be more females there, or I don't know, if we go to marketing department, it might be more females there. Where we go to cybersecurity, it's more males. Like, so why, why do we need to narrow the gap? What's the reason to narrow the gap if it just maybe more men interested in cybersecurity? I don't know, more females interested in HR.
That's an interesting question. So let me just give you my take on probably what are the benefits for women entering this field of cybersecurity, and why would actually cybersecurity or the industry gets benefited. So cybersecurity, in my view, is a dynamic puzzle with layers of complexity. And we've always known that diversity and collaboration are the crucial ingredients in the recipe for innovation, which supports solving the complex cybersecurity puzzle. There's some stats around how women continue to be underrepresented and make up only about 11 to 20% of the global cybersecurity workforce. And in order for that to change, we need to give more women the opportunity to enter the field across all levels and become role models to motivate more younger women to enter the field. Now, I'm passionate about creating diverse and equitable environments. My passion for advocacy when it comes to women in cybersecurity is informed by my own personal experiences, starting with my upbringing. I grew up in an extended family in India, with my grandmother being the matriarch of the family. Witnessing her collaborative and empathetic leadership skills, she proved to me and to others around us and our family time and time again two important lessons that I still remember very clearly. She always kept on saying, "We're always better together, Jai." The second lesson was more around the communities that we build around us are our superpower. The superpower doesn't come from within, like superheroes have, flying superpower, or throwing these webs from their fingers or whatever. I think that's fiction. Real superpower comes from building a community of people around you. So those were the two lessons that I learned, obviously, from my grandmother. Now my experience has informed my belief that amongst many other strengths, women are powerful community builders and exceptional collaborators. And like I was, talking to you, Yana, earlier before we went into the live session, that research from OECD, which is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, suggests the same fact through a lot of research done across different countries. Now, my belief is that more women in the industry will create more community, more collaboration, leading to more innovation. And all of this leads to more effective solutioning of the complex cybersecurity puzzle that we keep on discussing. Now, I need to add that diversity doesn't necessarily always come in the form of gender diversity. Diversity could come from age, it could come from ethnicity, academic background, life experiences, like we were discussing earlier, keeping in mind that our strength lies in these differences, and these differences are what enable us to solve problems, think differently, and more effectively.
Yeah, definitely, Jay. And I'm glad that you mentioned, that, when we talk about diversity, it's not only about the gender. It's, it's bringing this different experience. I guess the gender is the one that we're talking the most because it's often the most obvious and the sometimes maybe the easiest one to to resolve in some instances.
Great.
But yes, so bringing this, collaborative atmosphere, collaborative community feeling into cybersecurity, that's something I guess that might be resolved then when we're narrowing this gender gap. Have you, I don't know, like, have you have any examples of like some companies that, doing it really well in terms of bringing more women and having like different results because they brought more women into the teams?
I think there's a lot that's been said at the back of research, which is more around, and it's very simple, right? If you bring in an A team of people with the same sort of backgrounds, the same sort of experiences, they look at a problem and they'll solve it the same way because that's how they've solved it always, right? Because of the background that they carry as baggages. Whereas when you bring in someone from a completely different sort of lens of life, completely sort of different experiences, right? They bring in a unique perspective to solving a problem. And the point that I'm trying to make is that we're actually seeing that adversity. So think of cybersecurity as a world where there's good guys and bad guys, right? The good cops and the bad cops. When we talk about the bad guys, they're the threat actors or adversaries that we usually use as terms. There is a lot of collaboration, and hence there's a lot of innovation in adversaries, and we almost are playing catch up. And I think that needs to change. And that's where, when we bring in sort of completely different sort of people with different backgrounds, different genders, different ages, different sorts of life experiences, different sorts of styles of leadership, that is what will then help us solve the problem, rather than just the same set of people. Probably I'm not even going to talk about gender. I'm just going to focus more on experiences. You bring in the same sort of people with the same sort of experiences, they'll solve the problem the same way. So I think um, that's an argument on how this narrowing the gender gap is important, and how we need to bring in diversity to solve the cybersecurity puzzle.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just going to, acknowledge our listeners as well. Sneha just joined us as well from Agility Academy based in Melbourne. Um, Sharad has a comment. You can start with the small level 3 or 4 certificate courses from any local university organization like Kangan. It will give a base to start and then pursue further as per your interest. So what do you think, Jay? Like, how would you recommend people to, enter the cybersecurity? Where would need to start?
I think we did touch upon this earlier, Yana. My point of view is, obviously, doing a course like I think Chirag or someone was mentioning does demonstrate interest, but at the same time, it is a bigger commitment, and it's a big financial commitment as well. And which is where, if you want, if you were just not ready for that big financial commitment or time commitment, then you could probably just, there's so many resources that are available today. There's so many platforms that are available. So Jane Franklin launched a platform called The Source, which is available for free, which is for women, wherein she brings in different sorts of people with different capabilities to speak to these, to bring, obviously, both the genders together and discuss how we solve problems. There's a lot of other platforms that are available. There's She Hacks Purple platform. There's Webcode. There's Hack the Box. There's everything. That there's a lot of information and resources that are available. You've got to just find what specific area interests you. If you have the time and the money, and if you could invest in a course, that's gold. But if you can't, then look at these free resources that are available, and start figuring out what is it that you really are more interested in when it comes to cybersecurity, and then speak to network with people, speak to people, try and understand what has helped them grow their career in cybersecurity. And obviously, people come from very different spaces, so they'll always give you a point of view. And I feel like our community of cybersecurity practitioners is such amazing, such a loving community, wherein I feel like they're just so open and transparent to sharing information. All you need to do is just have the confidence to walk up to someone and then ask the right questions, and you will be guided, you will be given the right information.
And like, I guess spending so much time in cybersecurity, being passionate about the topic. So what else do you think, how else we can provide, opportunities for more women to enter into cybersecurity?
Let me start with calling out that I don't speak for women, but I'm an advocate for a more equitable world. I believe that there are two components to encouraging and providing opportunities for women to enter into cybersecurity. And the first component, or the first piece of the puzzle, is encouraging STEM based education and encouraging it early. We know that lack of female interest in STEM based courses, like we were discussing, is one of the many reasons that women are underrepresented in the cybersecurity sector. And this lack of interest can come from adult suggestions to children as early as primary school, like we were discussing earlier, around how boys get probably pushed more towards math and science, and girls get probably more pushed towards arts and humanities. Exposure to STEM should be made fun for all of the kids. I've got a 6-year-old, and we do talk about fun things, and we discuss things like cooking. We talk about how water evaporates when we boil it, or why do we put the bread first, why do we toast the bread first and then put butter on it, and why don't we just put the butter on it and then then toast it. So those are some fun ways of discussing concepts that are obviously science based concepts, and making it fun for the kids. Now, there is significant investment from our country. So the Australian government created the Office of STEM in STEM Ambassador Program. And one of the initiatives that I've actually looked at is called Future You. The Future You program has video games and fun characters that have STEM based jobs that challenge the gender stereotypes. Now, STEM education needs to be promoted differently too, rather than being seen just as an opportunity to offer potentially high pay careers to our kids. It needs to be seen as valuable skills, core competencies that kids need to acquire. STEM almost gives you the capability to experiment and evaluate information objectively, which has a very positive impact on how our kids and our future leaders view and navigate the world. So I'm going to just pause a little bit because I've seen you nodding to what I've been saying. Does that really make sense? Have we labored on the point of importance of STEM education enough?
Yes, definitely makes sense, Jay. And I do believe that we're getting there in terms of, in Australia, there's definitely more and more program. And I feel like, I don't have kids, but, people around me feels like boys and girls, start programming at like 6, at 6 or whatever. And then 9, they already like doing the first websites and YouTube channels and, all sort of things. But I guess if we're going back to, what about like women who want to enter cybersecurity right now? Yeah. So, someone who already finished university 20 years ago, and maybe, thinking to shifting into cybersecurity, like, for example, Rosabella told us, in the comment before, like, What's a good place to start? Obviously you already mentioned some, cybersecurity community and, few website. What else is there?
So I'm going to just tackle the question from a point of view of what can we do as an industry to get
Mm-hmm.
more women involved now. So let's start with the application process. Again, this is something that we were discussing, Yana,
Mm-hmm.
around creating better job descriptions that aren't really gender coded. I feel that's the key. This ensures that women aren't really put off the role before they get a chance to even submit an application. Now, research has found that women often tend to apply for roles only when they believe that they meet 100% of the requirements listed in a job ad. Adding the complex language then pushes people to apply even if they don't meet every qualification uh, that could be beneficial. Next, expanding the entry criteria, limiting the entry criteria to specific degrees, professional certifications, and experiences hasn't really been very helpful. I almost think of it this way, right? Hard skills can be acquired, and it is the soft skills and attitude which are the differentiating factors. We did mention the point of representational role models, and I feel that representational role models do play a crucial role. You cannot be what you cannot see. Well, at the very least, it's much more difficult. There is a great need for women in cybersecurity to share their stories and their journeys into leadership to encourage younger women to become a part of our industry. It is our job as allies to support these women and help them feel comfortable sharing these stories. So I think those are some of the things that we could, as an industry, do now in order to make this an attractive proposition for women to enter.
And I guess, if we're looking from it from another perspective, for those who entering cybersecurity, don't be scared to apply if you only, tick 5 boxes instead of like 10 boxes. And, look for those role models. They are exist. Maybe, maybe not as you said, maybe not as often and obvious, but where are those female role models in cybersecurity as well?
I agree. I'm sorry, I just realized that there was a second part to the question that I completely missed addressing, which was more around lateral entries after career breaks or giving opportunities to women who may not have the skills but have passion to explore cyber. So I think to that, again, certain things that you'd be able to relate to, Jana, more around transferable skills. There's something that everyone really worries about, whether they're switching careers, have taken a break to parent the kids, or have taken extended leave to care for a sick family member. Regardless of the time away, there needs to be focus on skills that you do have. What are the skills that you bring to the table? And how do you really confidently deliver a message? I think each one of us needs to understand that we need to own our own narrative. If you are selling a product and you sell your product as in, Jai is an okay guy who's going to buy that product, right? You've got to position yourself. You've got to own your narrative in a way that people start using your narrative and then say, oh, Jai is the guy who actually speaks to organizations on uplifting their cyber capabilities, about cyber resilience, about applying zero trust principles. And who has built that narrative? Well, Jai himself has built that narrative, right? And similarly, each one of us needs to build our own our own narratives and then build our own narratives and then sell ourselves in the best possible manner. um, I know when I use the word sell, it gets a bit uncomfortable, but honestly, I think that's how you get confidence, right? If you're not confident in the product that you're selling, which is yourself in the market, then how is someone else going to have the confidence in you? So you've got to think of these things. Now, the point on strong teams, are diverse teams, and not just gender diversity. I think we did mention this earlier, but also diversity in perspectives, life experiences, and leadership. I think in cybersecurity, the wider the variety of people and experiences we get as an industry to defend against adversities, the better our chances are of success. And in order to put our best foot forward for an opportunity in cybersecurity, we've got to be prepared to back our words with actions. Again, something that we discussed when it comes to demonstrating your interest in the field. I think there's certain basic steps, like Isabella was mentioning again, around how do I really navigate my path into cybersecurity. I think you've got to think about how do you really demonstrate that interest. An article you read recently on a topic that interests you, your comments on it, a side passion project that you've got going related to cybersecurity, a blog post that you wrote recently again on an area within cybersecurity that you're passionate about, an event that you attended, and you probably doing a short post on LinkedIn discussing your takeaways from that event. An industry association that you're a part of as a volunteer, whether it's ASA or it's an ASACA or an ISC2. There's so many industry associations for cybersecurity professionals. How are you then volunteering? How are you actually tuning into these individuals that speak at these different sorts of associations, and how are you absorbing that sort of information? I think these are some of the ways in which you're demonstrating your curiosity, your conviction, and persistence beyond just words that I'm interested in cybersecurity. I think it needs to be backed with a bit more of action, like we were discussing.
And I like, Jay, that you mentioned about selling yourself, and the good point that a lot of people feel a bit like, oh, selling, that I can't sell, that's not my thing. But in reality, it's kind of sell or to be sold. So we're selling every day. You sell something to your daughter probably every day, and if you don't sell it to her, she will sell it to you.
100% agree with you. In fact, I'm just remembering a friend of mine. His name's Dinesh, and he's recently moved from UK to Sydney. And I heard him speak on a podcast wherein he keeps on talking about sales may not be in your title or in your job description, but every single individual on the face of earth is selling. Whether it is you selling to the missus, whether it is, like you said, you selling to your daughter on why should she be doing A and not B, whether it is you talking to your manager about a promotion that's upcoming, you're selling yourself. Believe it or not, sales is an integral part of everyone's responsibility. It's just that we don't really recognize that, and it doesn't really figure in our job descriptions.
And I think, through all my live streams, it's such an ongoing topic. No matter from what industry, from what, position you're transitioning, it's all about, understanding your current skills. It's all about learning. It's all about the growing mindset. And in reality, it really doesn't matter from where you want to transition to, unless I guess it's, you want to be surgeon and you must finish 5 years of university. But in a lot of different positions, there is so many opportunities and so many interchangeable skills that you can bring from different industry to another. We have a few questions, Jay, coming up. So Shabhan has quite a specific question. Is there a good platform for GIC or more beginner kind of staff to get familiar about different frameworks?
Okay, so there's, I think GRC is governance, risk, and compliance, just for our viewers, Yana. And if you are interested in, becoming a part of the governance, risk, and compliance, I think there's lots of different frameworks. There's lots of different standards and certifications. You could probably look at ISO 27001, or you could probably look at NIST CSF as a more complete sort of a framework, which gives you a view of what are the various functions, such as identify, detect, respond, recover, protect. I think it gives you a nice framework of what sort of controls do you need to have in an organization. think of a few different things, aspects, and I'm just trying to simplify that, so that you understand what are these concepts. So think of an organization demonstrates um, intent to move towards a goal through a policy. Now, similar to how there's road safety rules and there's cops that always, run random checks to make sure that your vehicle is fit for purpose and you are operating within the road safety rules from time to time. Governance is a function which actually helps you understand that I've got a policy, but how am I governing the policy? Think of risk as a risk management. Every decision in our life is a risk decision. When you buy a house, you think of, what is the insurance that I've got covered? Is my building covered? Is the content within the building covered? When you buy a car, you think of, so every decision in life, you think of risk management. So risk is that element. The compliance element is more around, again, going back to the example of every when we get a driver's license, we get the driver's license from the Department of Transportation. Now, Department of Transportation is the regulator, or is the body which then defines the compliance for everyone that has a driver's license, which could be that you have 13 points over a period of 3 years, and you've got to make sure that you operate within the road safety rules. And if you don't, and if you have too many non-compliances, then um, you know you will get to a point wherein you haven't got through the 3 years and you've expired all of your points, which means your license is suspended. So compliance, think of compliance in a way of making sure in an industry, when you're given a license, then how is there regulation around that license, or what do you need to do in order to then abide to the rules to continue to have a license? So I think these, you asked me for resources, and I'm just breaking it down into simple terms for you. There's plenty of resources. Nothing really comes to mind straight away, but I'd highly recommend you to look at NIST CSF framework. That's a really great starting point. And speak to a few more people in the industry. Please feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn or any other platform, and we could have a conversation on what could we potentially do. I can't really, at the top of my head, think of resources. But like I said, NIST CSF is a good starting point.
And we can always put the links in the comments later. Then we think about the specific resources as well. We have a few more questions and comments coming up. Jay Jalpai saying, and apologies if I'm pronouncing someone's names incorrectly. I'm trying my best. Resonates so well with all the points you made, Jay. I would have said exactly the same about the models, transferable skills, and more. Love it.
Thank you for that,
And
Robert.
and Sharad also have a comment here. Great insight from Jay. There is a tricky scenario thought. Hard truth, to be in the cybersecurity field, one need to have good computer skills. In my experience, I observed that most of the women who entered in this area, mostly they will be limited to normal application programming or maintenance kind of work. But to come in this, a different level of interest is very much required, like curiosity and challenging attitude. So what is your experience, Jay? Have you I guess experienced that women who enter this area maybe like later mostly, will be limited to some application programming?
I almost feel like we put barriers on ourselves, and I'm sorry that I'm going this way, but I feel like we tend to limit ourselves more than anyone else, and we tend to probably get in our own ways rather than anyone else. I almost feel like there's plenty of opportunities as long as you are strategic and you plan these things, and these things do take time. And I don't really feel that someone should really hit a roadblock in terms of doing a certain thing. So uh, I think as long as you and we did talk through a certain few bullet points around what are the things that we can do to demonstrate interest, and as long as we follow the same. So say for example, you've started as a penetration tester, and your job is to, you get IP addresses, you get application URLs, and you're testing them, and you probably feel like that was enjoyable for a period of time, but you've learned as much as you could and you want to explore something else. Then what is that something else? Nobody is going to tell you that what's that something else. That needs to come from within. That what's that something else? Do I now want to try and get on the defense side? Do I now want to try and be more of a strategy guy who actually helps organizations in terms of getting from point A to point B, point A being their current state, point B being their desired target state? Do I want to be that strategy guy? Do I want to be an architect who's then building sort of patterns that need to be used within an organization, which are repeatable? It's I think it's just in you. You've got to figure out what is it that you want, and then work towards it. I think at times it's just about grit. How much perseverance do you have? How much persistent you are with doing things? And this is actually coming from experience, because I started my career as a pen tester, and then I was a SOC analyst, and then I was an architect, and then I was in strategy. So you've got to carve out a career for yourself. You've got to be passionate, and you've got to be able to then demonstrate your passion with what are you really doing to make sure that you're acquiring the right sort of skills, and how much do you really want something. So I'm sorry I haven't answered the question in a straight manner, but probably in a round, sort of a circular manner. But I hope that addresses your question. If you
I
feel
think it
like,
was, yeah, it wasn't the question. It was, I guess, the discussion kind of point. But I like your point, Jay, in terms of taking this ownership, and like I like you mentioned that no one gonna decide it for yourself. If you're a penetration test and you're doing a great job, why like someone would want to move you from your job? If like yes, you might have some amazing manager who will be like pushing you and want to you experience something else. But in reality, for organization, if you're doing great job in your position, why would someone would be like pushing you to do something else? So it is need to come from yourself. You need to think about like what's next for me, what next I want to do, and communicate it to others. Yeah, so it's some people, I guess, go with the flow, but and sometimes, yes, we can go with the flow and wait for opportunity to come to us. But I think it's a balance. It's about the balance of going with the flow and grabbing the opportunity that will be presented to us, but also make sure we have a plan in mind too.
100%. Each one of us got to where we got to because we probably had a micro plan and a macro plan, right? Exactly. Unless we carve out that plan, that what is it that I want to get to, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a plan in terms of I want to be financially free, in terms of not have a mortgage, but it needs to be a bit more structured in terms of what sort of skills do I need to acquire? What sort of profession do I need to get into? Am I happy with what I'm doing? Because I think these are things that will then help you in the long term. And the feeling of, what's your social impact? What's your real purpose? And how you working towards your purpose, and how you really just thinking beyond yourself. I think it's great to have goals which will take you help you grow in life, but at the same time you've got to, at certain point in your life, think about how am I helping that community? Going back to the point that my grandmother used to make more around, your superpower isn't your superpower. Your superpower is the community of people that you build around you that support you, because that is superpower. You alone can't really, fight all the battles. You've got to have people around you that are supportive and that will help you fight your battles. There'll be some days when you will help them fight their battles. There'll be some days that they will fight your battles for you. So I think it's just, think of it from that perspective is what I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just cautious about the time as well. So we're almost coming to 50 minutes of our discussion, and time go fast as usual. But I guess coming back, to our topic about actually narrowing the gender gap in cybersecurity. So obviously you've been in the industry for 17 years and passionate about the topic. So are you like doing something to make the difference? Is like your company doing something? What? Yeah, share with us.
Not enough. So, as a cybersecurity practitioner and as a father to a 6-year-old daughter that comes home every day with a tsunami of questions from school, I'm trying to do as best as possible, but clearly not enough. Like I said, some of my passion projects on the subject of narrowing the gender gap include leveraging simple analogies and stories to make cybersecurity simple in order to promote it as a discipline to young women, working with educators to support a smoother transition of students from various disciplines from universities into the cybersecurity workforce. And one of the specific programs that I've been lucky that I've been involved in for the last 4 years with UNSW is called Sandbox for Education. It is unique in a way that we work with students to co-create solutions to common industry challenges. One of the other personal favorites, passion projects of mine, is working the capacity of a mentor and at times as a mentee with students and women that want to become a part of the cybersecurity industry. I always learn so much through these interactions that I have. I personally feel blessed to be a part of the cybersecurity community, like I was saying, as a lot of us jointly work to engage, promote, and amplify the work of our women colleagues in the industry.
How did one join this cybersecurity community? Is it like a particular website or is it organization or what's that?
It's just the group of people around you. It's the circle of trust that you build around you. You know if you were thinking more from a construct of a community, there's obviously a lot of these associations that exist, like I was mentioning, around ASA being one of the associations, ISACA being an association, ISC2 being another association, AWSN is another beautiful association, Australian Women in Security Network. So there are these associations or communities that are available for you to join, but then it's getting involved in these and then finding your circle of trust that you want to work with on the big hairy audacious goals that you have, um, you know building that superpower around you.
Perfect. And guys, as I said, like because we're coming to the close to the end of our discussion today, we have some last questions to Jay, around the cybersecurity. Please make sure put it in the comments. We might have a time to take one more question. And I guess Jay, one more question from me. What what do you think like the biggest challenge for then women actually do enter cybersecurity? Do you feel like they experience some more like challenges in the male? Like, do you think there's like a difference and than a female joining cybersecurity team rather than male?
um, I almost feel like we're seeing much more differences in terms of cultures of how do we really create that sort of an environment of safety, security, and inclusiveness, which is what is actually going to attract diversity in the form of gender, in the form of backgrounds, in the form of different sort of um, cultures that bring to the table. I think there's certain basic components that are important. So embracing people for not just their work, but for who they present as, celebrating both the similarities and differences in gender, age, culture, background, and traditions, providing for an environment where they can express themselves freely, where they can have a voice and know that their voice is going to be respected. This culture of safety and inclusiveness will, ensure that we're organically drawing more diverse talent, and then we're also able to retain that diverse talent. Would you agree that that's the sort of secret sauce of how do you really create an environment which offers safety, inclusiveness, to bring in the diverse teams.
I think it's true for, any gender, everyone wants to be heard. Everyone wants to make sure they can, express their ideas
Yeah.
and talk about their ideas, maybe even if it's not the best idea at the time. It doesn't matter. It's, yeah, it's
100%.
about, yeah, having this, safe space to share it.
I agree with you, Jana.
But I guess the question is it different for males and females? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't have a data on it. So what do you think, Jay? Do you feel like women tend to speak up less?
Um, I I think I okay. Let me just gather my thoughts. I almost
Yeah.
would oppose to that. It's not about the gender difference. It's all about if they feel comfortable in an environment, they will speak up. They will raise their voice. They will share how they feel about certain things. But in order for them to do that, or in order for each any diverse member of a team to feel comfortable, you have to know that your opinion is going to be respected, which again comes from how do you really create a culture which is inclusive, which offers you that safety wherein you can freely share your voice. So I think it's just a cyclical sort of a process. So I don't think there's much of a difference from a gender perspective. Each one of us, when we feel safe, when we feel that our voices are being heard and respected, that's when we get really comfortable. In order for any employee to be successful in any job, that's the basic ingredient, right? As think of day one on a job, everyone's inviting you with warmth. They respect you for whatever it is that you bring, however you present yourself as. If you feel, or if you get that warmth, and if you feel that comfortable in that environment, then you're obviously going to be able to raise your voice, or be comfortable speaking up.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a goal for any organization in any industry and in any team. I think that's an ultimate goal, and especially I think now with the massive global resignation and people moving from job to job, companies who are doing the best gonna succeed in retaining talent retention. Regardless of a lot of other factors.
Yeah. 100%. I think the great resignation is a trend that we're seeing from a perspective of a lot of us through the pandemic have had so much of time to really think through and understand that at the end of the day, what's important is the people that are around you. At the end of the day, you have to be comfortable that yes, if you're making enough money to provide food on the table to pay off your mortgage, then it's just an aspiration to keep growing the bank balance. But how does that really help you? You've got to align, what's my purpose, what is my value system, and what is it that really makes me happy while I'm at work, right? If you feel like that those 8 hours of work is really draining, then that's a sign for you to then know that you're not in the right place, and a motivation for you to then evaluate, okay, what is that right place and what does that really look like. So that has caused the great resignation. I feel like it's more of the amount of time that people have had to clearly think through what makes me happy, what are my priorities, what's my value system, what do I value more. So for example, some people might value fairness and family time more, flexibility to work from anywhere more. So I think that has actually helped them realign and rejig as to, okay, fine, why do I really then be unhappy in these 8 hours? Why can't really be passionate every single day when I get to work, and what do I do in order to get there. So I think um, that, in my view, is the trend we're seeing or leading to great resignation.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess, to summarize, everything, trying to summarize everything, if you're thinking to go to cybersecurity, make sure that it's something, you're passionate about and interested about. And it will be easier in this case, to basically sell yourself to any organization. And if your motivation is paying your mortgage, that's probably not something that can help you to get the job quicker. So Jay, I just want to read the like few last comments, because the people been talking in the chat as well. Rosabella saying, that's true, Sharad. A previous live session I attended raised this as well. I think we're talking about the computer skills. Working through the Microsoft Office 365 fundamentals is helping me a lot, because having some understand on how Azure works at Actora, I feel it helping me understand easier when working through the SC courses, learning pathways. I feel less overwhelmed with the terminology used through the modules.
That makes sense.
So find, I guess, yeah, so everyone can find their ways of learning and their courses. But I think the point that Jay will be raising again, like finding your why, finding your motivation, finding your inspiration, having the growing mindset, and be open to learn. And I'm really cautious about the time, because we're already at 6:30 and I want to finish on the exciting note, Jay. So we have a little giveaway for our active participants. So, the giveaway is a virtual coffee chat with Jay, so you can ask him more questions and, pick his brain about cybersecurity. So while I will be announcing the speaker for next week, Jay gonna choose the winner of the virtual coffee chat. So I'll give you, 30 seconds to do that. And while you're doing that, I just gonna tell you guys that next week, Wednesday, the 20th of July, we're gonna talk with Sharon, and we're gonna talk about how to create a meaningful onboarding experience in IT industry. So it's kind of the extension of what we've been talking about just with Jay, about making sure that people comfortable, then especially in starting your job, and feel the part of the team as well. So we're gonna talk about with Sharon next week on the 20th of July. Would love to see you there, and also maybe hear some of your experience when you join some new companies. Jay, did I give you enough time? Who's the lucky winner?
No, yes, you've given me enough time. I've actually scrolled through the whole feed of comments, and I found Rosabella Daniels. And sorry, Rosabella, that I've been pronouncing your name as Isabella, probably because I've watched Encanto too many times. But anyways, I think Rosabella Daniels has been really active through the conversations on the comments. So maybe if she has the time, or if she would want to have a catch up, I'm more than happy to talk her through, and share, in my best capacity, whatever I can to support her, and to support her move into cyber.
Perfect, Rosabella. I'll make sure I'll connect you guys on LinkedIn. So, guys, obviously, everyone else, feel free to connect with Jay. Jay's LinkedIn is the best way to connect with you.
That's the only way to connect with me.
That's
That's
the
the
only
only
way.
social media that I'm on. I just can't really, with a super active 6-year-old girl at home, I really struggle to even be on one. So it's better to just be on one.
Perfect. So so connect with Jay on LinkedIn. So if you enjoy this conversation, if you get some value from today's live stream, please like this video, share it with people you know. So if you're doing that, it's obviously encouraged me to keep going and bring other experts from my network to talk about different things about IT careers. So I appreciate your support, guys. So if you can like and share. And Jay, just quickly, to finish this video, just put you on the spot. Just give me your favorite inspirational quote. Anything.
Um, Favorite inspirational quote. Okay. Again, linked with what we've been talking about, strength lies in our differences. It doesn't really lie in our similarities. That's a quote from Stephen Covey. So I think that would be an ideal quote to leave our audiences with. Thank you so much for being an amazing host, Yana, and thank you for each one of you that have participated in this live stream, for asking the question, and for demonstrating again the same things that we were talking about, traits around curiosity and active listening again. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for your time, Jay. And I'll try to remember the quote. The strength is not in the difference. The strength is in the difference, not in similarities.
Yeah,
There you
strength
go.
lies in differences, not in similarities.
So don't be scared to be different.
100%. 100%. Be yourself. Own yourself. Own your own narrative. I think those are the three basic bullet points that we want to leave you with.
Thank you again. And I'll see everyone next week. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.